My dad actually left the ministry when I was 13. And to me, that's kind of when my relationship with Jesus really started. It was almost like Jesus wasn't even in the picture anymore. There was so much deception. There was so much betrayal. And my parents, I'm very grateful for this now, but growing up, we had no idea. One second, I had this life I've always lived. Again, born and raised, grown up in the church my literal whole life. And then one day I was in a brand new city and my dad's name wasn't on a church directory. And it was just like, what? What do I do now? What's next? Just betrayal and deception is kind of the big thing. And it's all from church leadership is kind of where that stems from. It affected my relationship with Jesus personally a lot. There was so many emotions and so much toll negatively that happened to my relationship with Jesus. I mean, there's just so many changes in that time, but then adding all this church hurt on top of it, it was, well, are we ever going to go to church again? Are they going to let me in the church? Am I going to be accepted into that? And so it was a struggle finding the right youth ministry and the right youth group to get into. And I don't really trust church leadership in any way because those that I have let into my life have hurt me or my family.
Yeah. Welcome to Rise and Build podcast. Today, I have a new guest. She's going to introduce herself.
Thank you for having me on the podcast, Jimmy. My name is Hope Rainey. I am originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma, but I just moved up here to Kansas City back in September. So I've only been here a couple months, but I've absolutely loved it. I moved up here for work and it's been great, but I'm excited to be here today and have a great conversation.
Thank you so much for coming in, and I'm excited to just have a great conversation and have a great day of podcast. What a beautiful day. So for those people meeting you for the first time, can you share a little bit the background of being a pastor kid growing up?
Yeah. So my dad was a pastor for well over 20 years. And so when people talk about being born and raised in the church, I was born and raised in the church. And, there's pros and cons to that, but I deeply admire my dad. I look up to him. He is a huge role model of mine, if not the top one. And the way that he led in the ministry, I mean, there's so many lessons I've learned from that. With that, though, my dad actually left the ministry when I was 13. And to me, that's kind of when my relationship with Jesus really started. And so that's kind of where my story really begins.
Nice. What a beautiful story. Because some people, they don't know what's behind the scene of growing up as being like a pastor kid, because there's a lot into it and there's a lot of expectation too. Sometimes people, there's like, oh, she's a pastor kid, she has to behave this way, she has to act this way. But I'm excited to dive in more into that and to hear more about your stories. Yeah,
thank you. I'm excited too. It's funny, I've never really talked about it in a space like this before, my journey and my story in this way. But I'm excited too.
That's beautiful. That's why I'm excited too, because this is the first time you're in this kind of space to share your testimony. So let's dive into it.
Let's do it.
So when you were talking about your introduction, you shared that your dad left the ministry, and also that's when your faith started growing. And can you explain a little bit what happened and what led your dad to left the ministry?
Yeah, I mean, truly, it is a very long story. And it's not just one thing. It was several years of things. That's really my dad's story to tell, not mine. But it just kind of got to the point where it was almost like Jesus wasn't even in the picture anymore. There was so much deception. There was so much betrayal. And my parents, I'm very grateful for this now, but growing up, we had no idea. They dealt with these things, and me and my little brother, we had no idea the things that were happening behind those closed doors and the stories that happened and the things that happened. And so, our journey with me and my brother is, I have a younger brother. He's 5 years younger than me. And so he was very, very little at the time. But I just remember one second, I had this life I've always lived. Again, born and raised, grown up in the church my literal whole life. And then one day I was in a brand new city and my dad's name wasn't on a church directory. And it was just like, what? What do I do now? What's next? It was, and again, a very long story, but just betrayal and deception is kind of the big thing. And it's all from church leadership is kind of where that stems from.
Yeah, that's really tough, because I don't even know how you can, one day you just wake up and you see all that happening and trying to figure out what's going on,
Right.
And then also that being happening in the church, which is strange, what I mean?
All places.
Because we all expect that the church is the place where we all need to be, a good community of people and nice people. But then when you see something like that happening, it's like a strange. It shocks a lot of people.
Absolutely.
How did that affect your relationship with God personally?
Affected it a lot. And I think, again, I became a Christian when I was 7. I think just kind of being in that environment. And again, I'm very grateful for my family growing up in that Jesus loving, that people oriented household. It was a phenomenal foundation. I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, I mean, it affected my relationship with Jesus personally a lot. I think, and again, that really, my journey with Jesus, I think really started once my dad left the ministry. I became a Christian when I was 7 years old. Growing up in that Christian household with that foundation was amazing, and I'm very grateful for that. But whenever your entire life changes at such a pivotal, middle school, 13 years old, like already middle school is tough. And then having to navigate a brand new city that's triple the size of the one you came from. And there's just so many changes in that time, but then adding all this church hurt on top of it. It was, well, are we ever going to go to church again? I felt like if I wasn't a part of a family that my dad was a pastor, then are they going to let me in the church? Am I going to be accepted into that? And so it was a struggle finding the right youth ministry and the right youth group to get into. And my whole life I had looked up to my dad. He was a youth pastor. My whole life I had looked up to, oh my gosh, he's going to be my youth pastor one day. It's going to be full circle. And I only got 3 months with him in 6th grade. And so, kind of navigating that too and thinking, okay, well, is this God's plan? Is this just people doing the wrong things that really hurt our family? And so I think, again, just being that pivotal age, there was so many emotions and so much toll negatively that happened to my relationship with Jesus. But because of that, I was able to form my own relationship with Jesus. It was almost kind of like a wake-up call, unfortunately, but much needed.
Yes.
Of, okay, my dad is a great role model. He's a great, minister, but it's my journey with Jesus. This is my life with Jesus. What does he have in store for me? And what do I need to be doing to actually build my own relationship with him and not just build off of my family's? Again, I love my family. My mom and dad are amazing. I would not want any other parents besides them, but it's my journey with Jesus. So what am I going to do with it?
Yeah. I feel like that for a lot of people, it can be hard, like what you explained, because then I'm thinking like, the church, they just kind of, hurt us, and then that can easily affect a lot of people in their personal relationship with God, because now you're being questioning,
all the time.
Why this happening? Why did God allow this happening? And it can affect your faith too as well, because then you may feel like how you said, like, am I going to go back to church? Am I going to feel welcomed again? Am I going to feel loved? Am I going to feel cared? Because I see all these things happening in a church, and then I'm seeing people that they call themselves the follower of Jesus Christ. They call themselves the believers, but then now they're doing such kind of things to our family. Did you ever struggle with God to separate those people who hurt you?
Oh, absolutely. And still to this day, I struggle with that. I think another thing too is in my personal relationship with Jesus, trust has been not a strong suit of mine when it comes to the church, when it comes to church leadership. People that, would never notice, but it's just how I live my life, is I don't really trust church leadership in any way, because those that I have let into my life have hurt me or my family.
Yeah.
And, all this stuff happened, and my dad, so we left the ministry. I was 13. I got involved with another youth group. I was there about 2.5 years. And then something actually kind of similar happened to me. And it was almost like this reoccurring, oh my gosh. So trust has been a really difficult thing. And also with trust is I've become very critically minded of, okay, what is this pastor really all about? Okay, you have worship on Sunday. What are you actually singing? What is the heart behind your worship? Like, I'm able to, I had this critical lens now, and it makes me very judgmental, and I don't like that. It's something I have to constantly work on. But yeah, it's a lot of struggle.
Yeah.
And to this day, I have to, pray a lot about that.
Yeah,
and
it can be.
I'll kind of calm myself down when I'm in those moments. And but yeah, definitely struggle to this day.
Yeah, I think it's tough for people who went through that, because then you see those people who hurt you. The Bible teaches us, forgive people, love your neighbor and stuff like that. But sometimes it's hard to these people, they hated us. They kicked us out of the church. They led us to get away from the church because of the behavior, because of the whatever happened, So it's hard maybe for people to see those people around, and they can be emotional, confusion, anger, frustration. Yeah. What emotion did you carry with you? Like confusion, anger, frustration, or hurt? What kind of emotion did you carry with it?
Truly all the above. I was angry for a long time. I really was. I was, and also confused. I was angry at God for what? It wasn't him. I was angry also at my dad. For a long time before I kind of was told about, the truth behind everything that had happened. And because again, for me, it was just, oh, I lived this life and now I live this new one. I wasn't really, because I'm 13, it's not my place. And those things didn't happen to me, happen to my family, right? But yeah, I was angry at my dad actually for a long time, kind of internally. I almost kind of pictured, which is so not the case, I almost kind of pictured him giving up. Because again, I had only known one thing my whole life. This is how we live our life. This is what we do. And it was gone. Yeah. And it was almost like, someone may have messed up. So why do we just give up? Why do we pack our bags and move a whole city away from the only friends I had ever known? And, stuff like that. And again, why would I be angry? Because again, I didn't know the full story. But yeah, a lot of anger and, too, confusion and almost a grief because I lost that life that I had always had. And when you have to start from scratch, it's a lot. And again, at 13, I mean, by that point, you don't know everything at 13, but you know enough that you kind of have your personality, yourself, your foundation, and then boom, 180, it just flips. And so there was a lot of confusion. There was also a lot of grief of I felt like I lost who I was. Yeah. And I had to kind of reimagine myself, if you will, of, well, that's the life I used to live. So how am I going to be now? How am I going to live now? Who is this new hope? Is there a new hope? Yeah. Can I still be myself in this new faith? Like there was at 13, I'm thinking all these things. So kind of a mix of a lot of emotions for sure.
Yeah. And I can tell that, that must be hard even for your family as well.
Yeah.
To figure out all that, new transitioning from that, and makes a lot of questioning of figuring out like, did this just really happen from the church? And no, and trying to find those answers can be hard, like what you said, like, is it going to be hope, like your name, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's really hard for a lot of people and for your family. And I'm sorry that you had to went through that because that's really difficult and to deal with. And it's not just the easy thing that I can just like, oh, that's fine, we're going to find another church. It's not like that.
It takes a toll.
Yeah. What did the healing look like for you or not look like when you're going through that?
Yeah, for me, healing, I never really thought of going through, and especially going, through after all of this stuff had happened. I never really thought of it as healing. Because obviously I was hurt, but to me it was never, well, how can I get better from this? It was just, well, what now? And so something that I started picking up kind of later middle school, early high school, when we moved to Tulsa, was journaling, prayer journaling. It's one thing, because prayer is such a powerful thing. It really is. And when you can pray to Jesus out loud in front of people, by yourself, whatever that looks like, it really is a powerful thing. Yeah. For me, writing down my prayers was that powerful thing. I could, introduce prayer in small group, or I could, pray at my family at dinner, whatever that looked like. But when I had my time with Jesus in my prayer journal, I got to be myself. And that's something growing up as a pastor's kid is you really don't kind of have that. It's not, you mentioned expectations. There's a lot, and I could go on and on about expectations. Yeah. And you don't really notice them until you're out of it. But it was never really about me acting a certain way or talking a certain way. It was, I have to be a certain way for my dad. I have to make my dad look good and have a good representation because his name is on a church directory. And I love my dad. I never want any sort of negativity. When you think Kevin Rainey, you think negative. No, I want my dad. We're very similar. He has this light to him, and he's such a people person. I get that from him. And when people, he's very trustworthy. And I think I never wanted to hinder that. So I was always on my best behavior to make sure, oh, well, his kid is no, like that won't be me. Maybe my brother.
Yeah.
It could be my brother. It will not be me. Love my brother. He's great. But yeah, it really took a toll on that. But when I really got into prayer journaling, and again, I got to focus on that time with my Jesus in my way, in my prayer journal, I got to be real. It wasn't just, dear Lord, thank you for, it was, God, I've had a rough day and I'm angry at this and I'm upset at that, or thank you so much for this thing. I cannot tell you how grateful I am for this opportunity or for this group of friends or whatever it might be. But I had that outlet. And for several years, close to a decade now, I've been doing that. I mean, I always I run out of journals like no other. I'm writing every day in that prayer journal. And I get to be real with Jesus.
That's so beautiful because it looks like you have so much deep conversation with God, a deep relationship with him. Every single time you feel like something happened in your life, you write down and you write a prayer, you pray about it, which is good to help us to just connect to track to see where we are with our relationship with Jesus Christ. And because sometimes it can be difficult. And those journals, when we look back, sometimes they do help us. Look like, oh, God did help me throughout this season of life where I was going through this and this, but now he can do it again. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's nothing too big for him. Everything is possible for him. So that's great that you had routine of every single time when something happened, you write down, you have a conversation with God, and that will help you. And I think that also can strengthen your faith each and every day when you have that, because then you know where to go. Everything when you feel struggling. When did you start finding peace when you went through all those disappointments?
It actually happened. It took several years. First of all, peace is an ongoing work in progress. But I felt peace for really the first time in a long time when I was between sophomore and junior in high school. We got involved in a new church down in Tulsa, Battle Creek Church, great church. The head pastor is Dr. Alex Hamaya, and having a pastor like him kind of brought that trust back. Alex is one of those, I could talk about Alex Hamaya all day. He is one of those where he just brings the word of God to life. And it's not just, hey, the Bible says this, but here's how you can use it. Finding trust in a pastor again brought a lot of peace. With that, I got involved with, small groups and community groups and serving at kids camp, seeing Jesus work in kiddos just motivated me. And even my little brother, again, he's 5 years younger. We're very different stages of life, have always been. And getting to see my brother and all of, my cousin and all my friends, at these kid camps and getting to serve and see Jesus through them was God's not done yet. And that brought so much peace, seeing just Jesus through other people, not even just myself, but getting to see him work. And I think along with that too, with Alex, I think just church leadership as a whole, the more people I was actually able to trust and that trust never broke, it just kept building onto that piece. And I could go on. Kate Downing is a huge role model. She got me through high school, through injuries, through drama, through COVID. There were so many things happening in high school. And then on top of, well, can I trust the church? Even at this point, I'm still going through that. And someone like Kate Downing really helped me get through that. Jay Wynn, Brian Preston, so many. And so I think, again, being able to trust other people within the church again, and just that repetition and adding this person. And it was kind of a slow process. It can be, one person at a time, but over time, it really does just build that trust again.
Yeah, it can. It can be tough. And when someone broke trust, and to build that trust, it takes a lot of time. Yeah, because it's easy to break it, but then it's hard to build that trust back. And it can be so hard, especially in the space like church. Because then you're like, well, these people were supposed to be the people that we feel like they're here for us. They show love and care, like how Jesus did to other people. And it's hard to build that trust again, to start trusting people. And at that time, you were young, at 13 years old, and to see that happening as you're growing up, that created a lot of confusion, anger, and the trust thing too. I'm pretty sure did take you time to build that trust again. Was there a moment where you realized that God hadn't left you, even though the church space was changed?
Yeah, 1,000%. There were honestly a lot of moments. Again, not just here's how God affects my life, but I'm a very people-oriented person. I kind of live through other people in a way, just getting to see their stories and their testimonies and how God had delivered them through this or had brought this opportunity in this way. And I think just continuous stories of seeing how Jesus truly works. Whoa. Like,
Yeah.
and like, it kind of almost ties a little bow on top of all of this of like, no, again, Jesus is still working. He's never stopped working. He is always working.
Always working.
And getting, again, to see that through other people, it's like, oh, if he can do it to them, he can still do it to me.
Yes.
Exactly.
Amen. Yes.
And I think I really noticed that high school was a big time for me with that. Because I was almost in this, I call it the real world. And, there's the church world, there's the real world.
Yeah.
And getting to see Jesus work in other people in the real world. Because church camp is one thing. Jesus is going to work at church camp. The stories you see and the hearts that are changed, absolutely that's real. But when you have real people in the real world with real struggles that don't have a church to go to, they don't have a pastor to go to, they don't have a small group, but you still see Jesus work, come on. Like that is like, that's to me, that is like,
go.
come on, like bring it on. And so, yes, I was like just story after story, moment after moment, getting to experience that with other people. And then of course, in my own journey and my own opportunities that I've had and stuff like that, it's just kind of, again, just continuously built that. But yeah.
I love that. So you talked about finding God in real world. What does that look like to you? Or what does that mean to you?
Yeah, to me, the real world is outside the church walls. I don't think that a church is just a building. I think we carry the church in our hearts wherever we go. But with that, I think there's still those, I call it like the walls. There's still the walls to your heart. And to find the real world, you have to tear down those walls. Yes. There's this verse, one of my favorites actually, Proverbs 4:23, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it springs the issues of life. That is something that I do every day. I always have my guard up. I always have those walls up. But if I want Jesus to work, I have to, yes, guard my heart, but I have to let my walls go down. Yeah. You can do both.
Yes, that's right.
And when we carry the church with us, we have to tear those church walls down to allow God to work. And so for me, seeing that in what I call the real world is when those walls are down. When you put yourself aside and you let Jesus truly take control and step in. I struggle with that a lot. I'm
pretty sure some people struggle with that.
Oh gosh. I have my own plans. I'm very type A. I'm organized. I have my dreams and my goals and my passions. But at the end of the day, I had to tear my walls down. Still guard my heart. But Jesus, what do you want from me? And still take the church and, this church, but still take, the heart that I have for Jesus with me, but tear down the walls and actually let Jesus do his thing. Because again, he's always working. So let him work.
I like how you say that, because sometimes when you just have those walls up, then you just feel like, you're in control of everything. But I love how you said, I have to put those walls down and let Jesus take control. Because there's a moment in life where you feel like you need to surrender. You need to fully surrender. Let God take the wheel. You know what I mean? Just be behind the seat. Just sit down behind the seat, and then He will take care of it. And so most of people, sometimes I feel like they don't know how to put those walls down. And it's a challenge, because we really need God. We really need to invite God into our life, into our heart, and let God to be the center of our life. And then everything will go smooth when we have God in our life. So it's really important that you mentioned that, you have to let those walls down and let Jesus come in, and then He take over control. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm here, Jesus, take it over. You know what I mean? Where did you begin to see Jesus showing up in your life outside of the church?
Yeah. Again, other people. I think because, my journey with Jesus is my journey, and we've gone through our rough patches, me and Jesus, but I know that he's always there. He always has my heart, and I know that. Whenever I see Jesus work in non-believers, to me, that's the big thing. Again, high school was a really pivotal time. The high school that I went to is the biggest in the state of Oklahoma. It's huge. My graduating class was a little over 1,300.
Oh, that's a lot of class. That's a lot of kids.
Yeah, we have over 4,000 kids in our high school. So like it's a big place, and a big place with not a lot of believers. And
is that public?
Yes, yeah, public school. Yeah. And there is a good amount. Obviously, it's a big school. There's a group of us, but I had this incredible group in high school. There was 5 of us, incredibly close, very great friends. And only me and one other girl were, we had a relationship with Jesus. The other 3 did not. And getting to see Jesus work through their lives and having us, we would have these conversations where, they're still not believers to this day, but we would have these conversations about Jesus and questions this. And I don't have answers. I'll be the first one to tell you. I don't know. I don't have this book memorized cover to cover, but like, I know Jesus's heart. Let me help you. Let me guide. Let me give you these resources. Let me, show what God has done in my life, and maybe it can help you. I mean, having conversations like this with non-believers was where I really saw Jesus kind of shine, like you said, in this moment. And again, outside of those walls, I kind of put down, well, this is Hope talking, and let Jesus talk. Because I think that's so important. And before we started this, I kind of had a prayer to myself of, these aren't my words today. Like, these are Jesus's words. You have to do the same thing. That when those church walls come down, it's Jesus moving. It's Jesus talking. But when you get to have the opportunity with non-believers, to me, that, and whether they, accept Jesus in their heart or not, you've at least planted that seed. And if you get to water it, great. And if not, great. Because God's got a plan. But we have to, again, let down our walls and let Jesus speak life through us. And getting to do that with that group of friends was a very pivotal moment for me.
Yeah, I think I'm glad that Jesus showed up in that way, because then it also, at the same time, you were like preaching the gospel to those non-believers, and then help them to understand who God is, and then God was working through you to bring those people closer to him. And I also love how you said you prayed before to ask for wisdom, like, God, put words in my mouth.
Absolutely.
Like, I think we've seen that in the Jeremiah, that God, before you were born, I knew you. And then there's so many people that God uses in the Bible that they were afraid to speak, right? But God said, like, I'll put words in your mouth that you can say. I always pray about that all the time when I'm doing this kind of stuff, or sharing the gospel with other people, because sometimes it's hard. I'm like, God, put words in my mouth that I can just share something encouraging to someone else out there, or just put something in me that I can bless someone, that I can help someone today, so that they feel loved, they feel cared, they feel that there is God who cares for us, who loves us unconditionally. So that's beautiful.
And he does care, and he does love us. And I think that's just that underlying truth. And I think the reason why it is so important to pray a prayer like that when you come into a space like this, like, again, I have never really I've shared my testimony, my story several times, but solely about church hurt and solely about, how I got to where I am today, not very much, because I kind of leave it out. I kind of push it down because there is a lot of hurt behind that and a lot of negativity. But the reason why I really prayed that prayer today was because I'm not here trying to slander the church leaders that hurt us. What is that going to do? Nothing. There were mistakes that were made. Life goes on. God's plan continues. And so being able to make peace with that, and forgiveness is hard. First of all, if forgiving is easy, are you really forgiving? Forgiveness is very, very difficult. And especially with something like that. But again, when you get I can't stress it enough, when you tear down those walls and let Jesus work, I have no control over my life. I have no control over my future, what that looks like. I don't have control to go back and change the past either. When I let Jesus take control of that, true control, not 99%, but a full 180, that's where he's really going to shine and really going to move. And that's, I think, where a change in your heart can really be made too. So
Yeah, I think the forgiveness of that is huge, because sometimes when something like that, it's kind of like hard to forgive, like you said, but also at the same time, we know that forgiveness set us free, help us to not hold anything that's against. It helps us to feel free in our heart, because sometimes when you're holding something against someone else, it's like you don't feel peace in your heart. But once you take that burden, like, forgiveness, you forgive someone, like, I forgive you, and you move forward, it sets you free, because now you feel at peace, you feel better. But yeah, that's really good. How did you start understanding your faith change once it wasn't tied with the title or expectation?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly just that. When we were no longer tied down to a church, tied down to a church, tied down to, oh, you're a pastor, oh, this, or you're a pastor's kid. When those labels were gone, again, it's that, oh, now this is real. And it's going to struggle, right? Like you have to learn, those things take time. And again, I had lived my life, the first 13 years of my life were all one thing. I wasn't living like that life anymore. And so it was, well, how's going to Jesus work in my life now? And whenever we left the ministry, again, it just became real, because it was my own journey with Jesus, and it was my own relationship with Jesus. And again, my parents are fantastic parents who love Jesus more than anything, and getting to still love them and still rely on them when I have decisions to make or things to work through, but getting to do it in my way with my Jesus, and my relationship with Jesus has been the most drastic change. And it happened because, like you said, we were no longer tied down to this label or these expectations or these standards. And so a very, very drastic change for sure.
Because I feel like what you said, when you're like being a pastor kid or you're a pastor, there's a lot of expectation that everyone is expecting from you, and it can be tough. And I don't even know how other people live when they in that category. You're like, oh, I can't do that anymore. No. I can't do that anymore because I'm a pastor. Oh, I cannot do that. I'm a pastor kid. What I mean? So it's always hard all the time when you're like in that kind of thing. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but it's just like you're trying to present something. You're presenting something big. Yeah. So if someone walked away from the church, but they still love Jesus, they still love the Lord, what hope would you give to them?
Yeah, there's honestly a lot I could say. There's a lot of ways I could answer this. I think never lose sight of who Jesus really is. And with that, anytime you are hurt, even if it's not by a church, but just by people in general, Jesus is not the one that hurts you. People do. Again, Psalm 118:8. Take refuge in the Lord, not in people. And that's coming from a people person. I love people. But again, people make mistakes. And sometimes we get hurt. And that's part of life. But Jesus is not the one that hurts us in any way. I think with that, a couple verses, I would say Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Hope, not on your own understanding. I have to remind myself that too. But in all your ways, acknowledge him and he will guide your path straight. I mean, that's huge. That's who Jesus is. And I think along with that too, Jeremiah 29:11, you talked about this on James, his podcast too, which is such a great verse. I mean, again, that reassurance of Jesus is the one guiding our path.
Yes.
He knows what's best for us. We might think we know, we don't. He knows, and he's the one that's going to get us there. And so I think just kind of having that reassurance, but also that encouragement to continue giving your life and your plan to Jesus, give that control all to him, and he's going to make it good for you.
Amen. Thank you for sharing that, because so many people, maybe they may be going through the experience that maybe you went through, or they feel like not belong to the church, or I've heard so many stories that kind of like that, and that kind of push away people going to church. So this is really very helpful for you sharing this, because someone out there maybe is watching who went through similar situation. Maybe may not be exact the same situation like you was, but maybe different, but that can brings hope to people. And thank you so much for sharing that, because we need some people that don't know what's happening behind the scene. They don't know something like this does happen from the church. They don't know that. So thank you for willing to share this big testimony, the encouragement you shared to encourage other people. This will help maybe someone else who's going through the same situation right now, that can encouraging them that Jesus doesn't hurt people, but people does.
Absolutely.
And nobody is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity to let me share a little bit of my story. I appreciate it. This has been great.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming. And I hope see you in the next episode.
I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.